Hey guys, I'm Infinisolves. Today I'll be reviewing the YJ Pocket Timer. And I know what you're thinking, it's really late for a review on the YJ Pocket Timer considering it's been out for almost a month now. But there has been a lot of things that I've been testing with it recently, so you guys will most likely want to say towards the end of this video because there are some things that could be really big deal breakers for those of you guys who are planning to get a YJ Timer in the future. Included is the YJ timer and sort of lanyard keychain attachment sort of thing. And this sort of like wrist attachment thing looks pretty snazzy, but there's actually no opening on this line, so I think you're going to have to like knot it to the side of the timer in order for it to work. So we're not going to be using that in this video. So the timer needs two AAA batteries included. Just in order to put them in, just pop off the back cap and then just pop in your two batteries. To turn on the timer, you just hit the switch on the left and the timer will start up. It is the sort of like loud beep every time you press a button. Whoa. But every time that it functions and the functions actually does something, there will be a pretty loud beeping noise. That you can actually turn that off, because if you guys can see, if you press a button it will beep, but you can turn that off by pressing and holding the right button, which resets your time and turns off the beeping noise. So once that off sort of sign comes up, the beeping is now off. So on the sides there are two thermal, I'm pretty sure these are thermal camera sensors, and in order to start you just put both hands down, and then there's actually an indicator light that will shine once it detects something, so you know that you have hit it. And the timer itself has a very nice smooth finish to it, which I really like. It also feels really nice to actually be able to touch the table, and it just feels really satisfying to do that. It's a really tactical cool, if you know what I mean. And it's also really small, compact. It does what it's supposed to do. You can fit it into your pocket, and it keeps your average of 5s. And so let's just say you get a Felix Zemdegs 4-second solve, and then you reset. And then as you guys can see, the green light means that's on. Once you're done, you just hit that. And then the red light means that it has sent something, and then sent something, and then once you put your hand up, the timer will go. And then you can just hit the reset button and then let it run. Okay, so now if you press this button, this will show you the average of 5, which I don't think we currently have. Once you press it again, it will show you the average of 12, and then average of everything you have. It's sort of glitchy, I guess, because I have to review the footage again, but it's sort of not showing me some of the solves that I did before. So say you got really bad solve, and now your average of 5 will show up. And then if we just do 12 or 6 more solves, and it should show your average 12. Alright, so our new average of 5, our average of 12, and our average of every solve together. And as you guys might have told, as you guys might have figured out from the footage, the sensors are really accurate and they work pretty well. But that's only under testing circumstances. As you guys can see, the sensors are not very sensitive. So if you have a bit more, if you have your hands a bit more out, you probably won't be able to stop it in time. And if you're going to do a quick tap, sometimes it won't register. It did there, which is really nice, but the range is pretty good. It's just that it's not the best, and sometimes it doesn't register, which means that if you're not under testing circumstances and you have a cube and then you start it up, you pick it up and you put it down, sometimes you might miss the small hitbox that the thermal sensors actually sense. But I think that they work pretty well when I'm using it. So make sure to watch later on for some restrictions that these thermal cameras have. And sometimes they just activate for no reason. So it works surprisingly well. It has multiple colors, so you can get it in yellow, gray, blue. I think that if you get gray, the colors might look, or the activation light over here might be less noticeable, because if you guys haven't seen JR Cuber's review on the timer, he does go over pretty good points. But I'm finding that this yellow version of the timer sort of does things that, like, you can definitely see the light, and I'm in a pretty well lit room and I can see the light really well. I'm not sure if I like shine a flashlight at it or something, if the light will change, because he does have really good lighting. But under normal uses, I can see the light really well. And then the audio, even if you do have it on, it's not as loud as it seems. And if you're in a really open area, this audio cue might go really unnoticed, or might just completely go unnoticed between other casual people, as long as you're not in, or like as long as you're not in a compact room where it's more on the silent side, or if you go to cubing competitions and there's gonna be generally a lot of noise of people talking. I don't think anyone will be bothered by the timer noise, maybe the people around you, but it will definitely go pretty unnoticed among most people. And turn it off if you guys don't enjoy the beeping. You just turn it off. And the few problems I have with this cube, this isn't a cube. The few problems I have with this timer is that when you do use it, if you look really closely at the time, it skips number 2. And what I mean by that is, like, number 1 goes by pretty nice, pretty normally, and it just skips number 2. It goes like, it straight up skips into number 2. After it hits 1, it sort of skips straight into number 2, and that basically means the timer is counting 1 extra second. Because if you guys see, that's not a full second yet, it already reached number 2. And I'm not sure if that's just a lemon or if it's just the mechanical issues in this device. And that's something that really bothers me, is to know that my times are always going to be delayed, or like the timer's always gonna put 1 second onto my time or my solved, because it just doesn't count number 2 for some reason. Sometimes it does it pretty fine, but sometimes it just skips right over it like that, and it barely gives you a chance to maybe get a PB, because it slows almost every single solve down by a second. If you are solving, however, and you're solving, and let's say you almost finished, and boom, you got a +2. There's no way to add a +2 penalty or a DNF penalty onto the timer, so you're just stuck with the time you have. You can't really add penalties, and that might be good, but for some professional cubers, that might just seem like a very sort of unworthy thing to do, and it's not as reliable when you look through your time averages. It might not be as reliable as if you counted all the penalties that you had on your normal solves. And it sometimes fail to time, so if you switch between modes really quickly or something, it sometimes just completely doesn't work. It's working pretty good now, but sometimes during my just casual use, it might just like not work, and I have to press the reset button, or like completely hard reset it by turning it off and then turning it back on. And you can actually see the background of this thing, because it's sort of like molded into there, and I'm not sure if this might bother some people, but the background, even the colors that are not lit up, does show pretty noticeably. So if that's something that you guys don't like, maybe try to avoid this timer, but it is at a very cheap price. So to me, I think it's pretty good, but it might not fit some people, because if you have a phone, you can use a phone timer. However, my phone battery doesn't run that long, even though it's a pretty good phone. It just doesn't have a very good battery life, and I need the storage for filming videos and stuff, so I can't really have a timer using everything. But once you do reset it or turn it off and back on, your averages all go away. But while you're in this average mode, you're not able to set off the timer until you press reset. And then another problem is that sometimes it doesn't work on stacked mat timers. Now I'll show you an example. I'm just simply on my bed sheets, and if I place a timer down onto my bed sheets, it automatically sets off the thermal camera. I'm not sure if it's just because of the static electricity or whatever thingamajig is going on in this fabric, but it's just super duper glitchy. And then once you lift it up, it goes, and once you put it back down, it stops, and once you press reset, legit just has like a constant sort of set there. So like you can't use it on fabric surfaces because it just sets off the timer, and there's no way of timing or anything unless you pick up the timer off the fabric surface. Now if we use wooden surfaces, it does sort of the same thing, but it glitches. Like it sort of makes it hold, but then it all of a sudden just stops, and then the timer goes off, and then it starts glitching like crazy. And sometimes it'll work, but then it just randomly stops because like I don't know what's happening here. It's just that the wood just makes the timer act really funky. It sort of goes on and off randomly, and sometimes it might not happen so quickly, and then sometimes it just sets you at 0.001 second or some kind of glitchy thing like that. Hey, we have a real stack mat right here, and we put the timer onto it. It sets it off. So if you basically can't use the stack mat timer or this pocket timer on a fabric surface, it'll just set it off for some odd reason, and it's very glitchy. But if you put it on like glass surfaces or something like that, it works perfectly fine. It's just that it acts really funky on fabric surfaces. It also doesn't work on carpets because I'm pretty sure there's also sort of like a fabric surface, and it just sets off the timer and makes it go really funky. And now we have the timer in complete darkness. There's no lights on in this room at all, and all you can see is the timer's lights. And for me, it works pretty well. I just set it off there. It works pretty well in pitch darkness, so it senses my hands pretty well. The light goes off, you can see it really clearly, and then once you're done, I guess you could do blind solving in the dark or something, but it works really well. It works just as good as when I have the lights on, and I don't think it really affects the timer's performance. So if you are in a low light environment, I don't see a problem with that, and I think that it should work pretty well as long as you're hitting that small hitbox like I said before, because it's really easy to just maybe hit a bit too high or a bit too low, or maybe a bit too far to the right with the timer, and then once you miss it, it basically puts on another 2 or 3 seconds onto your time, like the extra second that it puts on in the beginning when it just skips number 2 or something isn't enough. So those are sort of the problems I have with the timer, but overall I think it's a pretty good product if you need it. So comparing the timer to my actual stack mat timer right over here, as you guys can see, it is a way more compact size that can easily fit into your pocket, and the stack mat timer is just really bulky when you're putting it for like travel uses, or I think that this is pretty slim in general. But this is also really heavy compared to the pocket timer, which legit feels like this plastic box. This plastic box that this timer came in might even be heavier than the timer itself, but I don't have one of those super precision what's that called, scales, so I can't really give you direct information. But this timer is really light, and I think that if you're going to try, or if you don't want to use your phone or an app to do timing when you're outside of your home and you don't want to carry a string bag with you everywhere, I think this will be a really nice option to just put in your pocket, and when you need to use it, you don't have to just use it for cubing. If you want to do like time how fast you can get to like one side of a road to another or something that's not safe to do, always check both sides of the road before crossing it. You can just put your hands on it and let go, and then basically time your friends, whatever they're doing, but do keep in mind that it still add on that extra second in the beginning no matter what you're doing, or extra half second. But sometimes it just skips it in general, like that's really annoying, and I think that might be one of the reasons why a lot of people avoid buying the timer. So other than that, I think it works pretty well. For those of you guys who would want to buy the timer, I suggest using it on wooden surfaces or glass surfaces where there's not much sort of static electricity or electricity flow just from you rubbing against it, because that really messes up the thermal cameras in my thoughts. I don't know really the actual reason why it just glitches out like that, but also always keep your hands really close to the timer. That it does go a bit farther, a pretty good range for you to have a pretty good liability on it, but always make sure to land pretty close to the timer, or else sometimes if you're in a panic and you miss the timer, it really screws up your time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys got some really good information to whether purchase the timer or not. And that's all I have for you guys today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.